Hey there. My name is Jess Coburn and welcome to Flagler. I'm going to be going through some reporting requirements for you based on discrimination, sexual violence, sexual harassment. I just wanted to come on here so you can fully see my face and so I could say hi. I'm going to go ahead and start a presentation in just a second, and then we'll go through that. This presentation is going to be real time. We're just going to record once all the way through. So just like if I was doing it in person. So if I make mistakes, we're just going to roll with it. So, all right. So it's my responsibility on campus to intake all reports of sexual violence and discrimination. So my name is Dr. Jess Coburn. I am the Assistant Dean of Students for Title IX and Equity and the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. My office resides in the Division of Human Resources and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which is led by the Vice President and Chief of Human Resources and Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer. My physical location is 148 Oviedo Street. I actually will probably have to change that location within the middle of this semester in spring 2023. We're moving over to the Leitner Museum, probably right in the middle of the spring semester. So yeah. My responsibilities on campus are going to kind of like start big picture. So you just understand kind of what I'm responsible for. And then we're really like dig deep down into how it relates to Flagler. So my responsibilities are these 5 laws. It actually extends much further than these 5 laws, but these are kind of the main ones that could grab everything that I'm responsible for. So I'm responsible for oversight and compliance of Titles 6, 7, and 9, and then Section 504 and the ADA law. So these laws cover students and employees. They cover all different types of discrimination. And so we're going to kind of talk specifically about these, but if you've ever wondered kind of where my responsibility comes from, it comes from these laws. For those of you who have been in higher ed for a while or who have a history in higher ed, I am the institution's Title IX coordinator. I'm also the institution's 504 coordinator, as well as our civil rights officer. So that gives you like kind of for those of you who have been in higher ed for a while or understand education law, that gives you some understanding of what my responsibilities here at Flagler are. So kind of digging into Flagler, really, if you look at our non-discrimination statement, it's my job to make sure that everybody here feels welcome, they're included, they belong, and if they're being discriminated against, then it's my job to intake that report, investigate, and find a resolution. So our non-discrimination statement is on the screen here, and it states, Flagler College is committed to diversity, inclusion, and the pursuit of higher education with adherence to high ethical standards. It's a policy of Flagler College not to discriminate in admission, treatment, or access to, or employment in its programs or activities on the basis of race, color, gender, religion, national origin, age, disability, marital status, familial status, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, and any other protected characteristic. This means that my responsibilities are to prevent, investigate, and resolve all reports of sexual harassment, sexual assault, stalking, relationship violence, discrimination on the basis of a protected class, which are all the things that I just read off, and retaliation for reporting or for participating in an investigation into any sexual violence, harassment, or discrimination claims. So we'll talk about I mean, I'm sure if you have a history in higher ed or if you've worked at a college before, um, you might know what a mandatory reporter is, and that's kind of what we're leading up to. So you are required to report any of these instances. So if you've got a report of sexual harassment, sexual assault, stalking, relationship violence, discrimination on the basis of a protected class, or retaliation, again, for reporting or for participating in an investigation, you're required to report that to me. So that's what this presentation really revolves around, is your requirement to report these instances. So I'm going to take you through a couple definitions, some definitions that you need to understand, because these are things that we expect you as an employee of Flagler College to report, or to identify and then report these instances directly to me. So the first definition is discrimination. Discrimination is an unfair treatment of people and groups based on protected characteristic. So it could be race, gender, age, sexual orientation, national origin, religion, disability, or the other protected characteristics that I had listed before. Examples of discrimination are examples of instances that you should report, or you're mandated to report to me, are any use of slurs. It could be racial slurs, it could be slurs based on gender, religion, national origin. I mean, any type of, or disability, any type of discriminatory slur. Any treatment of somebody, or if you're treating somebody differently in a negative manner based on these characteristics, that should be reported. Any report of making fun of someone or physical harm or violence, which of course could be a hate crime, those are things that you must report to me. Sexual assault is also something that you must report. So any actual attempted or threatened sexual act with another person without a person's consent is the definition of sexual assault. So any non-consensual sexual intercourse or non-consensual sexual touching of some sort. Examples could be rape, it could be sex while incapacitated, could be unwelcome sex or sexual contact, or unwelcome grabbing of any type of body parts, including breast, crotch, or butt. Sexual harassment is unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature, unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal conduct of a sexual nature. So any type of efforts to develop a relationship, any sex or gender-based teasing or joking, any bullying, aggression, or intimidation based on gender, and then inconsistent harassment in a sexual tone. So sexual harassment and gender discrimination don't always have to be sexual. So if somebody is being attacked or harassed or bullied based on their gender or their perceived gender or their gender expression or their sexual orientation, then those are all things that that have to be reported, so I can deal with it in the appropriate way. Relationship violence is something that, so if you hear me talk, you might hear me say relationship violence, and you might hear me say dating and domestic violence. They kind of go hand in hand. Our students at Flagler are a more traditional college student who not very many of our students are married, or they don't have kids, or they live with their significant other. We just don't have a large population of that here. So dating violence or relationship violence is what I tend to see more often than not. So that's why I choose to talk about it in I choose to talk about it as relationship violence rather than kind of domestic violence or domestic abuse. But so relationship violence is any violence or harassment committed by a person who's in a relationship with the victim. So an example could be that a couple gets in a physical or a verbal fight. Maybe your student said, oh, I got in this really bad fight with my significant other last night, and I need an extension on a paper. Just something like that simple needs to be reported. Someone who's reportedly controlling their significant other, someone reports their ex won't leave them alone. College, we have a lot of unhealthy relationships and a lot of students who are just getting their feet wet in the dating pool and kind of trying to figure it out. And, We just want to make sure that any like red flags of an unhealthy relationship are reported. So that's something that I can intervene and kind of help to either put on a healthy path or to kind of get a student out of a relationship if they need to. And then the last kind of conduct related definition is stalking. So stalking is engaging in unwanted acts directed at a person that would cause a person to fear for their safety. Some examples of stalking would be showing up at a residence hall or even a classroom, following someone to another location, waiting for someone outside of a classroom or any other meeting space. So students are trying to figure out their, figure out dating, and sometimes they are bothersome to one another. So if you get a student who's like, oh man, this person, they keep contacting me and I don't want them to, or I don't want to leave the classroom because so-and-so is sitting out there. I mean, those are all signs of potential stalking that should be reported. So I always like to talk about the difference between privacy and confidentiality. So you are a mandatory reporter, as I've made very clear during the beginning of this presentation. So all of the things that I've talked about up until now, if you hear from a student that, or an employee, anybody, that something like this is happening on campus or around campus or to a member of our campus, then you're mandated to report that to me. But that doesn't mean that you're expected to tell anybody else about it, nor am I going to tell anybody else about it. So we are what's considered private employees. So only those who need to know the information to respond to the report will receive the information. And you can lean on this when you're talking to students. So when a student reports something to you and they're like, but I don't want you to tell anybody, I trust you. I don't, I just wanted you to know because I need an extension on my paper, or I need, I need a day off from being a work study, or whatever the reason is, that you must tell them that you have to report it. And if you want to, you can blame it on me. That's fine. It doesn't matter. You can blame it on college policy. You can blame it on something so you're not kind of directly taking the hit. Confidentiality is different than privacy. So a confidential employee is not allowed to report to the college unless the person making the disclosure consents for the information to be shared, or if the employee is obligated by law to disclose. So on Flagler's campus, only counseling services and their staff and health services and their staff are confidential employees. So these are licensed mental health professionals and either registered nurses, nurse practitioners, doctors, or the administrative assistants within those offices. So those employees, they're either operating usually under a license, which makes it required that they're confidential. And so we have to respect the fact that that they cannot report to the college. But even if something does happen, so if the employee becomes obligated by law to disclose, they're still not disclosing to the college. They're disclosing it either to the police or to a hospital, or to some way where they can get the student the help that they need. So everyone's responsibility on this campus is to keep campus safe, which is why you are a mandatory reporter. And this is another thing that you can lean on to tell students, if they're like, no, please don't say anything, you can explain that it's your responsibility to help keep campus safe. And helping keep campus safe is helping to keep that student safe. And so that's why that you are a mandatory reporter. So as an employee, students will seek you out for help. They'll assume that you're going to know how to help them, and then they're going to want results from you. And when I say they want results from you, they don't want you to solve their problems, which that would be really great in a perfect world, that you go to one person and your problems are solved, but that's not how it works. So when I say want results from you, is they just want the next step. They want a resource. They want help. They want you to figure out, like, to kind of help them get to that next step. And if you don't know what that next step is, you need to find the resources to help figure out what that next step is. And that's what, this presentations like this are for. So again, they're going to want results from you. But when I say results, I just mean a next step. And it's usually in the form of a resource of some sort. So if a student discloses to you any instances regarding discrimination, sexual violence, harassment, and stalking, you need to let them know that you have to report the incident to the college. And there's a couple ways that you can do it. Some seasoned professors and professionals in higher ed have a really great way to do this. I suggest to just kind of come out right out of the gate and just to say, hey, thank you for letting me know about this. But I'm a mandatory reporter and I'm obligated to tell the college, and we're going to get you the help that you need. I have cards that can guide you, and I'm actually going to kind of turn off, go over to, I'm going to turn my camera back on. Okay. Hi again. So I have cards, and these cards are either, they're in my office, they are in a bunch of different offices across campus. It just depends on what your role is on campus, but your supervisor or your supervisor's supervisor should know where to get one of these cards. If not, contact me and I'll get some to you. So these cards, one side is green and one side is yellow, and one side is for the green side is for you, and the yellow side is for the student. And so they're perforated down the middle, so you can kind of fold them like this and you can rip them apart. And the student side has all different types of resources listed on all types of resources for the student to get the help they need. My contact information is on here: security, health services, counseling services, as well as the St. Augustine Police, the Sheriff's Office, the Beach Police, the hospital. There's some other like rape crisis center information. There's a local domestic violence shelter information on here. And then and basically it says like their options and our non-retaliation policy. It gives them all of the information that they need on one little card that they can walk away with. So you can tear this apart and give them the half of this card. This side of the card, these are focused on Title IX right now, so which is sexual assault, sexual violence, harassment. The conversation is the same. The resources are very similar, maybe not exactly the same, but the kind of general discrimination cards like this are in the works. They're just not done yet. And I have a ton of these to get rid of, so or to be used. So that's why we're going to use them. But the information is the same. I am the same person that you're going to report Title IX violations to, that you're going to report discrimination and all of the other things too. So it's the same person. This side, the faculty side, it walks you through exactly what to say. So, it says, please know that I'm required to refer you to our Title IX coordinator. She'll help meet with you to ensure your personal safety and emotional well-being, direct you to relevant resources, and explain what your options are if you want the college to take action. Like, you cannot go wrong if you use this. So if a conversation like this is something that makes you really nervous, make sure you have one of these cards either in your office or in your, whatever you have in your bag, whatever you have kind of carrying around with you. Just make sure that you have one of these, because that's the purpose of them. Is that I know this is a scary situation. I deal with this day in and day out, so I can have conversations like this all day long, but you're not quite prepared probably to have conversations like this, and it could be quite uncomfortable. So that's the purpose of this card. The back of the cards is actions to take after your conversation, and it's to contact me and whatever means are best for you. And then there's some on-campus resources, some my contact information, and contact information for some other people on campus. So hopefully these cards will help you if you again, if you can't locate them, let me know, and I will get one to you. All right, so we're back to the presentation. So once you use the card to guide, or the card to help you, you've helped the student, you've helped them figure out what they can do next, which is come to me or go to security or go to whatever they need. Then you need to report this disclosure to me. And you can do it in a bunch of different ways. You can do it through a reporting form, which I'll talk about in just a second. You can email me, you can call me, you can visit my office. Literally just get the information to me in whatever way is the easiest for you. So in the previous slide, I talked about filling out a reporting form. So whenever you fill out a reporting form, you just go to flagler.edu. I can just click, well, I can here. So here's our homepage, flagler.edu. And when you're at any Flagler page, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom, and both our non-discrimination page and our Title IX page are what we call one-click resources. So at the bottom of any page, so I could go to Human Resources page. At the very bottom of the page is going to be these one clicks. So Notice of Non-Discrimination and Title IX Policies and Resources. So if I click Notice of Non-Discrimination, you'll see the bias and discrimination reporting form right here. So if you have bias and discrimination reported to you, anything that kind of falls within our non-discrimination statement, then you can send the information this way. And so you just put the name of the student and detailed description, and it's fairly easy, and submit the report. If you've been to a different institution, we utilize a data system called Maxient. And so that is something that a lot of different colleges are using. So this reporting form might look a little familiar to you if you've been at an institution that uses Maxient. So, and so this is our Notice of Non-Discrimination page, and then you can also see our non-discrimination and equal access policy and procedures on this page, if that's something that you're interested in looking at. So I'm just going to scroll right back down and see that there's the one click for Title IX also. So this opens our Title IX page. There's some Title IX resources. You can see all of our training and education. You can see our policy here. If you click policy and process, if you click there, it takes you to our policy. And then you can report an incident right here. So again, still utilizes the same data system, but it's a different form. So this is our sexual misconduct reporting form. So any sexual violence, sexual harassment, stalking, dating violence, domestic violence, all of that will be reported to this form. And so it's very similar. I just basically need to know who told you something and what did they tell you, and then you can send it in and I'll do my thing from there. All right, so it just showed you the reporting form. You can also email me and tell me what a student told you and who the student was, and just tell me everything that they told you. You could call me or you can visit my office. I welcome any type of communication, however you're most comfortable getting it to me. If you're not sure, just call me and ask. I have faculty, staff all the time calling me to say, hey, Jess, I had a student come into my office and this is what they explained to me. Is this something that I should submit a report? Or I had a student write something in a final essay, and I'm not really quite sure if it falls into the criteria of reporting. Can you review it and let me know? And I'm happy to do that. Please, if you're in doubt at all, let me know, and I'm happy to review something or kind of talk you through whatever was disclosed to you. So if I can get my slides to advance, I can show you the next slide. There we go. This is so faculty, adjuncts, anybody who is taking this training, staff members, people who are not in the classroom, you can kind of zone out for just 1 second, but faculty, anybody who's in a classroom, anybody who's writing a syllabus, these are the syllabus statements that are provided for you. You should be getting a syllabus template of some sort, and these statements are included in your syllabus. But right out of the gate, I always recommend day one in the classroom to tell your students that you're a mandatory reporter. I love it when I go into classrooms and I ask students how many times on the first day of class they were told their professors were a mandatory reporter, and they kind of roll their eyes and they're like, we know you're a mandatory reporter. Like, thank you. I love that response because I never want a student to feel tricked into reporting something. And so if I want them to know right out of the gate that if they tell anybody on this campus about something that they're going to report it to me and that we have to do something about it. And this just creates a community of trust in that, like, you're not trying to hide anything and we're not trying to trap people into reporting. And so these statements, and even not just putting it in your syllabus, but saying something in class. Hey, I'm a mandatory reporter. If you tell me about any discrimination, sexual violence, I have to report it, to the appropriate office. And I think, your students will really appreciate that. All right, staff members, come back to me. So after you submit a report, this is just a very, very basic understanding of what happens next. I'll reach out to the student immediately to schedule a meeting. In their meeting with me, I'm going to talk to them about their options, and their options really depend on what's going on. So if it reaches kind of the level of a possible policy violation, so if what's being reported is actual sexual assault or actual sexual harassment or stalking or anything like that, then I'll talk to them about kind of how or if they want the college to respond. And so that could be through a formal resolution, which is an investigation and a hearing, and there is a conclusion with some possible sanctions at the end. An informal resolution, the best way to think about it is mediation. It's kind of it's a conversation between me and the two parties, or however many parties there are, that we can figure out how to resolve this in a way that is equitable to everybody. And then I can also put in supportive measures. And when I say by put in supportive measures, I mean I can issue a no contact order between two students. If you're a faculty member, you might get an email from me that's like, hey, if you have this person in your class, they're working with my office, please do what you can to help them be successful. If you get an email like that from me, it probably means that the student has gone through something fairly traumatic, and it's something that they can't focus in class, and they've figured out they can't focus in class. They can't seem to get anything done. And so if you're getting emails like that from me, then, just know that the student really is going through something, and I'll never tell you what it is, but if an email is coming from me like that, just know that it's probably something pretty severe. You can see the sexual harassment policy and non-discrimination and equal access policy for more details, and they are in those two websites that I showed you, those one-click non-discrimination statement website, and then the Title IX resources website. So please feel free to look at the policies, and then so you can be more informed if a student ever reports something to you. Sometimes students want to report something, but they don't want their name to be associated with it. So they ask if they can remain anonymous. If a student tells you the name of a person, or they come up to you and they say, John Doe comes up to you and says that Jane Doe, sexually assaulted him last night, and then says, but I don't want you to tell anybody. Your response is, I'm so sorry, I'm a mandatory reporter. I want this will stay private, but I have to tell Jess Cobran, or I have to tell Dr. Cobran, whatever you want to call me. I have to disclose this information, and then, she can help you through your options. If a student says, I'd like to report something, but I want to stay anonymous, or I want to tell the college something, but I want to tell them anonymously, then direct them to an online reporting form. And those are the exact same reporting forms that I just showed you on how to report. So a student can go in and can report, and they can literally write the word anonymous by where it asks for their name. They write anonymous. Anonymous reports really kind of tie our hands in a way that is a little frustrating, but we still have to give the option to report anonymously. Students just have to understand that if they're reporting anonymously, there's no way that I can follow up with them. I can't get more information from them. There's really no way to do like to do a full investigation with an anonymous report. But the option is there, and there's even a little statement on the report that says if you choose to report anonymously, please know we're going to do everything we can, but sometimes that is limited. All right, so my expectations of you are few and in my opinion pretty simple. Here at Flagler, romantic relationships with students, between students and employees are prohibited. You may not date or have any romantic relationships with a student. There's a power structure that is something that we have chosen as an institution to take a pretty a good stance on that that they are prohibited, and that it doesn't matter if they're in a class with you or not in a class with you. You're still an employee of the institution, and there's a perceived power differential there. So it is prohibited. If you hear about any romantic relationships between an employee and a student, it's as part of your mandatory reporting duties, and you must report it to me. The next bullet is hopefully the most simple, and it's just to be nice. Students, especially students who are reporting instances of sexual violence or discrimination, are looking for help. And so, being nice and being compassionate, and whenever they report it to you is really all I ask of you. They're looking for help, and so the first thing that I really expect you to do is to be nice to them. In a sexual misconduct or discrimination situation, do not investigate. That is my job. The student tells you the information, you relay what they told you to me, and then I will take it from there. Please do not investigate. I also expect you to have open and clear communication with me. It could be with your supervisor as well. I have really good relationships with the supervisors on campus. Like I said before, if you have a question, please reach out to me and ask me, and I can, make sure that you're reporting what you should be reporting. And then just be a support system for the Flagler community. We're a small community here, and students have really good relationships with their faculty and staff and employees of the institution. And so just being the best support system that you can for the Flagler community is a great, that's what we expect from all of our employees. So thank you again. My name is Dr. Jess Cobran. Here's my email, jcobran@flagler.edu. My physical location is 148 Oviedo Street. My contact information is also on those websites that I showed you. It's kind of all over the place. And so, please let me welcome you to Flagler again. We're really happy to have you. I hope I get to meet you very soon. If you see me around campus, please say hi. I'd love to talk, grab lunch, or, whatever. So welcome to Flagler. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And thank you so much for your time. It's always awkward when I have to stop the recording.